Over my recent vacation, I spent a lot of time playing video games. And I do mean a lot. I played through three separate games. One was a visual novel from a great series, another, possibly the best RPG of 2025, and lastly, a great action adventure game full of nostalgia. So let's talk about them. I've been spending time lately playing No Sleep for Kaname Date from the AI Somnium files, Clair Obscure Expedition 33, and The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. They are all incredibly unique and not like the others. One's trippy and emotional, one's dark and beautiful, and the other brings back that classic Zelda magic that we've been missing out on lately. Before we begin, however, I want to know exactly what you guys have been playing lately. Drop your current games in the comments. I love seeing what everyone's diving into. And if you're feeling like more JRPG content like this, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Alright, that's enough talk. Let's start with the one that's been keeping me up way too late at night lately. No Sleep for Kaname Date. I've been a big fan of this game ever since AI the Somnium Files and Nirvana Initiative. There's that weird dream logic, the branching timelines, and those what just happened moments that made me question everything I thought I understood about the story. Those games felt like the perfect mix of mystery, sci-fi, and emotional character drama. Kinda like Zero Escape, but with more of a detective noir vibe going on. No Sleep for Kaname Date still plays in that same world between the original game and Nirvana Initiative, but this time it's kind of small. It's kind of like taking a step back from the big branching timelines and multiverse twists of the previous entries and focusing on a tighter, more contained story. On paper, it sounds like a safer experience, but in practice, I really miss that sense of unpredictability. The branching paths were my favorite parts of the Somnium File games. I love going down these branching paths and finding out what changed from that split decision, or going down a path only to find out I don't quite have all the information to proceed, so I need to go back and go down a different path to find a plot twist to make that first path finally make sense. It's something that's also done in the Zero Escape games, and honestly, it's kind of a genius way to tell the story. With that being said, one of the biggest differences this time is that No Sleep for Kaname Date leans far more heavily into the puzzle solving side. You can really feel the Zero Escape influence here. You have those escape room style sequences that make you think, okay, if I flip this and move this and unlock this, something crazy is about to happen that makes absolutely no sense. It's honestly what makes the game feel so alive. The problem is, the story wrapped around this doesn't quite hit the same highs. The earlier AI games had huge moments, branching storylines that made you replay them just to see how one tiny choice could completely change everything. And unfortunately, in the latest game, that's gone. There's a more linear story this time around, and while that does make it a bit easier to follow, it also means that it loses that big sense of discovery, that what if feeling that made the previous games so addictive. Now, I don't think the writing is bad, it's just fine. It's serviceable. The humor's still there, the character banter still lands and it's hilarious, but it never quite reaches the weird brilliance that Uchikoshi's storytelling is known for. It feels like the game is trying to keep things grounded, but part of me missed the wild brain-melting twists and emotional gut punches that define the earlier entries. As a whole, it just feels like a major step down from the previous entries. It's also noticeably shorter, which to be honest, I didn't mind too much. Both the original and Nirvana Initiative lasted me about 40 hours, but this one only lasted me about 15 hours. Sometimes a more focused story can be refreshing, especially after Nirvana Initiative's layered structure, but here the pacing felt off. Just as it starts building momentum, it kind of ends. Like it was missing that big wow moment to tie everything together. Honestly, I was watching a cutscene and then the credits rolled and the game ended. Out of nowhere. It was such a weird experience. That being said, I still enjoyed it. Even though it's easily my least favorite entry in the series, I wouldn't call it bad. There's still something satisfying about stepping into Date's shoes, digging through surreal dreamscapes and piecing together puzzles that feel pulled straight from the Zero Escape playbook, which was good because I adore the Zero Escape series. It's familiar, but still clever enough to hold my attention. It was one of those games where, yeah, if you're new to the series, it's not going to blow you away. But if you played the other games in the series, there's a comfort in revisiting the world again, even if it's not at its best. The whole Iris kidnapped by alien story was a bit of an odd choice, but it's a smaller story and feels almost like a spin-off. It's a lighter mystery, maybe a little too safe for its own good, but at the end of the day, I'm still glad I played it. It just reminded me of how special the AI series is. Is it AI or is it I? But yeah, it reminded me of how special the I series was when it wasn't afraid to go completely off the rails. And now I'm hoping whatever comes next brings back that sense of chaos and wonder that made the earlier games unforgettable. And speaking of unforgettable, the next game I played might be one of the most visually striking and greatest RPGs I've touched all year, or even all decade. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 honestly was everything I expected after playing the demo earlier in the year. It starts off strong and keeps that energy going for most of the game. From the opening moments, your heart gets ripped out in a very haunting way, and the world itself is filled with a kind of melancholy that sticks with you long after you finish playing the game. This isn't one of those RPGs that takes forever to get good. Within the first hour, you already know you're in for something that's easily a Game of the Year contender. That music, the tone, the way every environment feels like it's been crafted with love and care. And for a very long while, it delivers on that, up until the final act. Expedition 33 feels like something special, but I'll jump into how it drops later, but don't worry, I'll make sure to keep it spoiler free. The combat system is what really pulled me in, that parry system. Man, it's so satisfying. You can tell the devs put a lot of love into how it feels. Landing a perfect parry isn't just about unpredictable timing. There's a certain rhythm to it. When you get into that flow, when you start parrying full enemy combos one after another, it feels incredible. Sure, there's an easier dodge mechanic you can use, but really, I went with the mantra either you parry or you die. And usually because I am old and awful at reacting, it was the former for me until I learned the patterns. That makes even the hard battles feel incredibly rewarding. Even enemies way above your level are beatable if you master that parry system. What really impressed me though is how every character plays into the story. There isn't a single throwaway character that you won't like. Everyone has a real purpose and you can easily tell. You get to know their relationships and their struggles. They feel genuine and meaningful, not just filling party slots. You're traveling with what feels like actual people and not generic anime tropes, which is all too common in RPGs these days. By the midpoint, you start to really care about what happens to them. And the story itself, it's refreshing. It doesn't rely on the usual JRPG cliches. It's not about saving the world in the traditional sense, and it has some twists I never saw coming. There's a sincerity to the writing that makes it stand out. It's mature, but it's not being self-serious, and it's poetic without feeling pretentious. You can tell the developers wanted to make something thoughtful, something that respects the player's intelligence. Now, I'll keep the spoiler free, but I do have to say the last part of the game, Act 3, doesn't quite hold up to the first two. It's not that it's bad, it just feels like the pacing and the focus slip a little. The storytelling that felt so tight and confident early on starts to lose that precision. It starts to feel incredibly rushed, like they just wanted it to end. Some of the big emotional moments don't hit quite as hard as they could have, and it ends up feeling like it's running out of momentum right when it should have been hitting its peak. It just kind of said, okay, let's make everything else optional and let you go beat the final boss now. It's the kind of ending where you can tell what they were going for, And honestly, I respect the ambition, but compared to the near perfect build-up before it, it's kind of a stumble. Not enough to ruin the experience, but enough that it lingers in your mind afterwards. Still, despite that dip near the end, I absolutely love my time with Clair Obscure Expedition 33. It's one of those kind of games that reminds you how powerful atmosphere and tone can be in an RPG, as well as how important it is in addition to an amazing battle system. It's stylish, it's heartfelt, and for most of its runtime, it's one of the best emotional journeys I've ever played. And even if the ending doesn't fully land, the journey to get there, completely worth it. Do not miss out on Clair Obscura because honestly, you'll go into it and come out of it realizing that you probably played one of the greatest games to exist and will ever exist. But after that emotional roller coaster, I needed something a little bit different, something familiar, but fresh in all the right ways. So naturally, I jumped into The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I'll be honest, when I first saw the whole ecosystem reveal in The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, I was kinda skeptical. Zelda's been one of my favorite series since I was a kid, but the idea of copying objects and summoning echoes instead of swinging a sword sounded like a cheap gimmick at first. Now don't get me wrong, I get it, Zelda is built on gimmicks, from Ocarina's time travel system or Twilight Princess's wolf system, but I didn't know if the ecosystem would actually feel like Zelda. But as I started playing it, that skepticism began to fade. It's just one of those mechanics that doesn't fully click until you start experimenting. You realize how creative you can get, stacking beds to make bridges, copying enemies to turn fights in your favor, solving puzzles in completely unexpected ways, usually using beds. Seriously, that bed echo was overpowered and you could solve almost any puzzle in the game using it. Echoes were such a clever twist on the traditional Zelda formula, but what really surprised me is how it still feels like Zelda at its core. That sense of curiosity, of problem solving, of looking at a room and thinking, wait, I can actually do this. That's all still here, just reimagined through a new lens. It brought back the same feeling I had playing the original Zelda and Link to the Past, something that's been missing with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. The story, though, that's pure classic Zelda. From the moment I set out on the adventure, it felt perfectly familiar. The tone, the pacing, the way the world slowly unfolds around you, that villain, it felt like Zelda. It brought me back to those afternoons after elementary school, playing A Link to the Past on that tiny 14-inch CRT television I grew up with, getting lost for hours and not caring if I ever found the next dungeon. Echoes of Wisdom captures that same feeling of discovery, that comforting rhythm of exploration, challenge, and reward that the older games did so well. And I'll admit, as I played, the nostalgia, it hit hard. There's just something about seeing a brand new top-down Zelda game. The perspective, the pacing, the way the music swells when you finally uncover something hidden. It reminded me why I fell in love with the series in the first place. Back then, it wasn't about those open worlds or fancy in-depth stories. It was just about the adventure. I kind of liked the whole minimal storytelling that it had going for it. That curiosity and about wondering what's behind that next cave entrance or hidden under a rock, that is peak Zelda. Echoes of Wisdom manages to bring that feeling back while still doing something completely new. I think that's why it resonated with me so much. It reminded me that Zelda doesn't have to reinvent itself every single time to feel fresh. Sure, Echoes might be reinventing a little bit, but it still has that classic formula that made Zelda as popular as it is today. By the time I reached the end, I wasn't thinking about whether I preferred this or Tears of the Kingdom. I was just grateful. Grateful that Nintendo is still willing to take risks while honoring what made them a household name even to this day. Seriously, I have to ask, when you were younger, did your parents say video games or did they just automatically jump to Nintendo? I know when I grew up, I could be playing PlayStation, I could be playing my Sega Genesis, I could be playing anything, and it was always Nintendo, according to my parents. Was that just me, or was there other people that had their parents do the same thing? Anyways, playing through Echoes of Wisdom honestly made me wish that they go all in on this style again. Maybe remake A Link to the Past with this art direction, or even build a brand new 2D Zelda in this format, except, have some actual Link and slashing your sword. There's just something timeless about it. It's the kind of game that makes you feel you're reliving your childhood again, even if you've been playing these for decades. It's rare for a series this old to surprise me anymore, but this one kinda did. Not because it tried to be bigger or flashier, but because it reminded me of why I've loved Zelda my entire life. So yeah, that's what I've been playing lately. 3 completely different experiences, each in their own way, reminding me why I love video games so much. But now it's your turn. I want to hear from you. What have you been playing lately? Drop your current games down in the comments. I always love what everyone's getting into, and who knows, maybe you'll inspire me to play the same game. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe for more JRPG talk, and check out my video on 10 bad JRPGs that are actually worth playing. This has been Shinky, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, have a wonderful day.